Hello everyone. In today's video, we dive into the latest article by Dr. Turki Faisal al-Rashid, published in Arab News. Titled is Embracing Realistic Unity in a Fractured World. Before we begin, let me introduce the author. Dr. Turki Faisal al-Rashid, a Saudi businessman, academic, and thought leader. As an adjunct professor at the University of Arizona and advisor, American University of Beirut, Faculty of Food and Agricultural Dr. Turki Faisal al-Rashid, founder of Golden Grass Inc. He brings a rare blend of vision, expertise, and real-world insight to every article he writes. Dr. al-Rashid is also a distinguished author. His upcoming book, Saudi Arabia, Transformation, Uncertainty, and Sustainability, explores the kingdom's evolving economic and social landscape amid global change, offering deep insights into development, resilience, and long-term sustainability. Let's begin.
Okay, so let's get right into it. We hear it all the time, right? That we're living in a world of transition. But what if that's not quite the right word? What if it's more like a fundamental break from everything we've known? Today, we're going to explore how we might find real, genuine unity, not by fighting the enemies we're told to fear, but by turning to face the problems that are actually staring us down. So this whole conversation really kicked off after a pretty shocking speech from the former Bank of England governor, Mark Carney. He got up at Davos and didn't just poke holes in the status quo, he called the whole rules-based order, as you see here, mere theater. He was basically telling world leaders to stop pretending the old playbook even works anymore. I mean, that's a bold statement, and it forces us to see the world in a completely new light.
And this was his key point. We're not in some gentle, predictable transition. He called it a profound rupture. He argued that the very things that were supposed to bring us all together, like global trade and economic ties, are now being used as weapons to create division and chaos. And that idea right there, well, that sets the stage for everything we're about to unpack. So that idea of a rupture brings us to our first section. We've got to move past this illusion of a perfectly stable, interconnected world and embrace a new kind of realism, one that actually acknowledges these deep cracks in the foundation. One possible answer to this whole mess is a new strategy people are calling value-based realism. You can think of it as a new playbook for countries trying to navigate this chaos. It's all about sticking to your core values while being flexible enough to deal with a messy world where there isn't just one superpower anymore. But to even use a strategy like this, we first have to get a handle on what politics is at its absolute core. All right, so to really understand how to navigate this new world, we're going to use a pretty powerful and, let's be honest, a kind of uncomfortable lens. It comes from the political theory of a German philosopher named Carl Schmitt. Schmitt's big idea is, on the surface, incredibly simple. He said that every major area of human thought has its own fundamental opposition. For morality, it's good versus evil. For economics, it's profitable versus unprofitable. But for politics, he argued the ultimate non-negotiable distinction is between friend and enemy. And this isn't about who you like or dislike personally, it's about the survival of your group. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, and it's a super important distinction. Schmitt was really clear about this. The political enemy, the hostis, is a public foe. It's a group that poses a real existential threat to your entire way of life. This is totally different from an inimicus, which is just, a personal rival, maybe a competitor in business, or just someone you don't really vibe with. Politics, in his view, is only concerned with those big public threats. And this is really Schmitt's big critique of our modern world. He believed that liberalism is always trying to smooth over these harsh realities. It tries to depoliticize everything by pretending that existential foes are just competitors, people you can debate with or negotiate a trade deal with. He warned that while this might seem peaceful, it actually neutralizes our ability to see real threats, and in the process, drains politics of its core unifying power. So this brings us to a really crucial part of the puzzle, the enemy factory. Because if that friend versus enemy distinction is the most powerful force in politics, you can bet it's also something that can be twisted and manipulated for political gain. Okay, so building on Schmitt's ideas, a strategist named Pierre Canessa actually identified 6 classic archetypes that leaders use to literally manufacture enemies out of thin air. You've got the external ones, like the neighboring country, a global superpower, or the so-called barbarian at the gates. And then you have the internal ones, the intimate enemy you see in civil wars, the hidden enemy of conspiracy theories, and even the media enemy when the press is branded as a traitor. And you can see these archetypes play out all over the world.
If we look at some examples from the Arab world, for instance, civil wars have created that tragic, intimate enemy where neighbors turn on neighbors. Rampant conspiracy theories about foreign plots create a convenient hidden enemy that helps leaders dodge blame for their own failures. And of course, state-run media often labels any critical journalist or activist as a media enemy, an agent of some foreign power. Okay, this brings us to the absolute heart of this whole discussion. We have to make a pivot, away from these phantom manufactured enemies and toward the very real challenges that are right in front of us. I mean, it's a pretty effective strategy, isn't it? Creating an external bad guy is a great way to rally your base and shift blame away from your own shortcomings. But we have to stop and ask the most important question. Are these the enemies we should actually be fighting? Here's a real foe. 100 million. According to the World Bank, that is the number of people in the Arab world living below the poverty line. Now that isn't some phantom threat cooked up by a politician. That's an existential crisis impacting millions of real lives every single day. Let's look at another real foe. This chart here shows that youth unemployment in North Africa hovers around 25%. Think about that. 1/4 of the young people, the very engine of the region's future, can't find decent work. That's not just a number on a chart. It's a direct threat to peace and stability. And how about this one? Female illiteracy in the region is at 20%. 1 in 5 women are being denied the basic tool of literacy. This systematically holds back the potential of half the population. It's a massive barrier to progress, and frankly, it's a self-inflicted wound. So here's the thing. Our true foes aren't some shadowy, mysterious force. They are clearly defined. They're measurable. In fact, they're all laid out for us in the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. We're talking about poverty, hunger, lack of quality education, gender inequality, a lack of decent work, and corrupt institutions. These are the enemies that are actually threatening our way of life. So if those are the real foes, what on earth do we do about it? Well, that brings us to our final section, a new kind of call to unity, one based on declaring war on our real, shared problems. When you lay it out side by side like this, the choice becomes crystal clear. Path number 1 is the old way, focused on external, often made-up enemies. That path always leads to division, it wastes unbelievable resources, and it's a great way to hide your own failures. Path number 2 is the new way, declares something like poverty as our collective enemy. That path builds real unity because you're fighting a battle that actually helps everyone. So the solution is to take that incredibly powerful, primal, unifying energy that Schmitt was talking about, that energy of facing a common enemy, and turn it inward. Not against our fellow citizens, but against the systemic problems that hold all of us back. Just imagine for a second if a nation mobilized with the full force of a war, but a war on illiteracy, a war on unemployment. And that leaves us with this final, really powerful thought. What if we could completely redefine our politics? What if instead of asking, who is our enemy, we started asking, what is our enemy? And we answered together. Poverty is our enemy. Injustice is our enemy. Inequality is our enemy. Because when we choose to fight those battles as one, we're not just solving problems. We are building a truly unified and a much more just future. A future that isn't built on the theater of a broken global order, but on the real, hard work of human progress.
Conclusion. As we conclude this discussion, we return to the vision expressed by Dr. Turki Faisal al-Rashid, a vision rooted in clarity, innovation, and a deep commitment to shaping a more stable and interconnected future. For the full article, you can find the complete details in the description below, or visit www.arabnews.com. And to learn more about the author, visit www.tfrashid.org. If this video gave you insight or inspired your thinking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more discussions like this. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay curious, and see you in the next video.